Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Bantamweight Boxing Podcast, pound for pound, the best boxing podcast around. I'm your host, Michael Waite, and joined with me are three of the Waite brothers. Today, we're going to be talking about the big fight between Deontay Wilder, or should I call him the Big Dosser, and Tyson Fury. What a fight that was. But before we get into it, let's quickly introduce ourselves. If you guys could do it for me, start from the eldest and go down to the youngest. If you're getting confused, Johan, that means you go first, mate.
That's me. Good evening. My name is Deontay Wilder. Thank you for joining. You're going to have a great time.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Jimmy. I hope you enjoy the pod tonight.
Evening all. Joe here. Camera on for the first time.
Good evening, Joe.
Yeah, big smiles coming from Joe over there. Love it. Anyway, right, let's get into it. So, what a fight. You know, there's so much to unpack with this fight. Probably one of the greatest heavyweight fights of recent times, really. The only one I think that comes kind of close to it is probably the AJ Klitschko. And I'm sure there'll be a lot of comparisons between those two fights about which one was the best. If you haven't seen the fight and you're coming here for boxing news, Fury did knock Wilder out in the 11th round. I think overall there was 4 or so knockdowns. Fury going down twice himself in one round, saved by the bell, and then coming back late on to finish off Wilder. But we've got a few questions. First of all, I think we're going to start off by talking a bit about the weight. Obviously, there was a lot of discussion about that going into it. Fury weighing about 300 pounds. And Johan, out of that 300 pounds, how much do you think that weight was held in his balls? Big testicles, mate. Big testicles.
There's only one. Wait, there's only one way to answer this. It's a Kronk Gym, baby. It's the Kronk Gym. You get me? Gym. That's it. The rest of the podcast, I'm staying like this. Yeah, it was. If you took the weight of Sugar Hill, weighed him, that would be the weight of Fury's bollocks. and that is why we tuned in. We tuned in for those huge fucking balls to just be at it. I was in heaven, and the way that they roll, take your fucking shirts off, lads. Don't be shy.
It's
coming
to that.
Tyson Fury and Sugar Hill can do it. I'm fucking relaxed here. I'm comfortable.
Yeah.
I had a beautiful evening. I'm feeling a little bit cold now. I'm not in Las Vegas, but yeah. I don't even know if I answered that question. I don't even know if you wanted an answer.
That is all I
we saw a beautiful fight. And the only thing that's not in my mind to like yell out, which I wanted to, was Bomb Squad. It ain't coming. It isn't coming. Maybe it was. It ain't. You know, it's all just about Fury. Maybe I don't know. I don't know what you guys are gonna say or what questions you're gonna throw at us. But thank you for mentioning Fury's beautiful balls. I haven't been able to get them off my mind.
Yeah, I think
over to you.
There's a lot more we'd want to say about Wilder, and we will get to it. And we would be screaming Bomb Squad maybe if he had been a bit more gracious in defeat. You know what I mean? I think, unfortunately for Wilder, stop moving down the camera. No one's.
I just wanted to see my. I try and see if I can just get my abs in without.
But I think again for Wilder,
hide the National Trust coat, Johan.
You can't mention that. You can't.
The sign is in the chair. We can edit that out. Hide it.
But again, for Wilder, his antics outside the ring spoiled what he managed to do inside the ring. So a bit of a shame on that, but we will get to that. But Joe, I've got a little question for you. What do you think? Do you think Fury's performance on Saturday night was the perfect execution of a game plan? You know, him and Sugar Hill making a clear plan. We're going to knock him out late and going and executing that.
No, I don't think so, because I think any game plan wouldn't see Fury get put on his arse in round 4 a couple of times. Obviously, like Fury says, if you play with fire, you're going to get burnt. So with those tactics to knock him out, there is going to be, you're going to get hurt. But in terms of game plan and Fury's performance, I think on Sunday night or Sunday morning, we saw one of the worst Tyson Furies beat one of the best Deontay Wilders. And I think that's interesting because in the second fight, I think we saw one of the best Tyson Furies beat one of the worst Deontay Wilders. And I think overall that goes to show Fury is just levels above him, and he dealt with the job as he needed to. He wasn't at his best. He looked a bit. We're talking about how heavy he came in, talk about his balls or whatnot. But I actually think he was just a bit unfit and a bit out of shape.
Yeah,
and that is why he came in at a career heavy.
Joe, do you think like that whole like the Deontay Wilder comment that he wasn't good enough on the night, like or tonight I wasn't good enough? Do you think that is bollocks, and that basically Fury is a superior fighter, came in relatively unprepared for the fight, nice and heavy because he likes Mars bars or whatever it is, knowing that he was gonna do the job?
I couldn't agree more, Jan. I couldn't agree more. But in fairness to Fury, how do you get yourself up for this third fight when you know you've beaten him twice already?
I think you guys have got it wrong with Fury's balls. I think it's all about Fury's lungs. I think those. That's the magic right there. You know, that's the difference between these two fighters.
And Jimmy, if you said to me,
Tyson Fury beat up Deontay Wilder for 11 rounds and then went partying at Hakkasan nightclub all night. And looked fresh.
Yeah, he looked fresh. Yeah.
But because importantly, if you said to me, would you like giant lungs or giant balls? I would go for lungs every time. Every time.
What's interesting on that point?
Yeah, like you side them
your
lungs.
Balls are about the size of your lungs, aren't they?
Just on that point, though, that's what I see a big difference between AJ and Fury. Whenever AJ gets rocked in a fight, he's done, mate. That's him done for the next 6 or so rounds. He doesn't have that recover. Like the way Fury recovers is just sensational.
Yeah.
I think that's a good point.
Yeah, with the nightclub.
And that is stamina, because you know a lot of fighters will say getting back to your feet and you know regaining that consciousness is all about physical stamina a lot of the time. But Joe, carry on with going back to what we were saying about the game plan and all of that. So do you not feel that you know it was Fury's intention to come in that heavy because his ultimate goal was I am just going to knock this guy out, or do you think you know are you saying he just wasn't really up for the fight?
That was the game plan. Again, Sugar Hill, same trainer from the second fight, same game plan. I'm just saying the performance, he didn't execute it as well as he did.
Yeah.
The reason is that I think he's a little bit complacent. But like I said, it goes to show he's a far superior fighter. And even without the best camp, probably, he's able just to put...
Even on his worst night.
Well, it seems to be he was quite happy to sacrifice the speed and agility to just put on more weight and be more powerful. And obviously, and you know, that came with the bonus of knocking Wilder out. But he, you know, Fury was very slow, wasn't it? And he was very easy to hit. And I definitely feel if he's coming up against maybe an Alexander Usyk, I do not want to see Fury at that weight. I think this was a very specific weight for a very specific fight, and was, you know, very intelligent from him and his trainer. But for other fights, I'd definitely like to see Fury come back down to that kind of 250s, kind of that kind of weight.
When Andre Ward was asked about the Usyk fight, Andre Ward didn't even hesitate when he said that I can't remember his exact words, but he basically didn't think that it would even be a competitive fight, that Fury would win that. And I got a lot of time for Andre Ward's comments, particularly, you know, if someone trained by Virgil Hunter, who I take his word as gospel. So I think that's an interesting thought.
Yeah, how do you see that fight going? Like, we can go there now because you know no one's talking about AJ and Fury now. The future.
I'd like to see AJ Wilder still. I still think AJ Wilder
definitely.
Really great fight.
Staying on Usyk Fury. Obviously, they're both going to have mandatories, and they've got Usyk's got AJ and Fury's gonna. He might fight Dillian White. You know, God willing.
The build up for that fight, I'm looking forward to that. We talked about that, haven't we? Yeah.
We just been talking about that. Press conference between Fury and White, like literally
better than the
get
fight.
them in the same room. Just please get them in the same room. Like the internet is calling for it. But Jim, I'll pose it to you. How would you see that going? Fury Usyk.
I think it's going to be closer than probably a lot of people expect. I think what we've seen from Usyk is, depending on who he fights, he raises his game, and you know, against some of his early heavyweight fights, we were all a bit underwhelmed. But then against Joshua, against a higher caliber fighter, he really takes it to another level. And I think we'll see the same against Fury. Having said that, I think it was difficult to look past Fury just because of the sheer size difference. I think skill-wise, they're very similar, but I just think if you look at the way Fury bullied Wilder, the clinching, the leaning, using that massive frame that he's got, just sapped the life out of Wilder. And I think Usyk's got a better tank, but equally, a lot of the time it just comes down to sheer size and power. And when you've got similar skills, I think my money would definitely be on Tyson.
Yeah, I think what's underrated about Tyson Fury as well is his inside work. If you actually watch the Wilder fight, the amount of uppercuts he lands,
uppercuts on the inside, the
uppercuts on the inside were ferocious.
They were nasty.
Those were what I think were knocking Wilder down a lot of the time. They weren't seen by the camera, but he'd throw an uppercut and then come back with like a left hook, and then Wilder would drop down. But
I don't even think Wilder knows what an uppercut is. I don't think in 3 fights I saw him throw one. He
definitely didn't see them coming, but it choked me up a little bit when he got knocked out in the 11th round. That choked me up a bit. That was nasty.
That was nasty.
That ain't nice to see anyone get hit like that. He didn't see. I mean,
I think we've got to definitely shout out to Wilder's bravery in that fight. There was true fighting warrior spirit in that performance. He may not have the engine, but my God, like he's got the heart to be a world-class top heavyweight.
And a good chin, to be fair to him. He could have gone down so many times. And I think it's more testament to the heart of he just wouldn't give up. But, good chin, Mike, took some big shots.
But Mike, what's better? Big balls, big lungs, or big heart?
Yeah, I know what my girlfriend would say. Definitely, definitely a big heart. Big heart, mate.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely shout out to Wilder that he, because it takes two to tango, and to have a brilliant fight like that, you need Wilder to be the second dancing partner, and he was dangerous that fight. It really was edge of the seat stuff.
I see him as knocking out most other heavyweights. And it's only Usyk that causes him problems because of his movement. In the same way that Fury, although I know that Fury, his movement wasn't the primary thing in the third fight, but it's going to be the movement that troubles him. AJ, I mean, I don't know. I don't fancy AJ in that one.
I don't fancy. It's going
to be another one where he needs a rematch to do the job.
Yeah. No, I'm not sure about AJ that one. Like with that fight, because when you see Wilder's knockdown, it just comes out of nowhere. Like literally just a 1-2 straight down the pipe, and Fury, the bell saved him in that round. The bell saved him, and he made a very
no. Jesus saved him.
Jesus saved, yeah. Well, Jesus rang the bell, didn't he?
Time. He rang the bell.
Yeah.
That bell you could hear was Jesus's bell. Simple.
Well, yeah, Joe. Going to you actually. Where does Fury rank now for you? Like, as a fighter, is he easily now the number one in the division?
Of this era, definitely. Because when you look back, obviously he's almost had 2 careers in that he fought so long ago when he first won the belts, and then he was out for so long. But he beat Klitschko essentially on his own turf, and now he's done that to Wilder in America a couple of times.
He's done it a very different way as well, hasn't he?
Exactly.
Which is interesting.
Exactly. I think he does need to fight Fury, and he needs to have a few more competitive. Well, he has to defend his title. He's still yet to do that. So I think he has to do that before he retires. But fighter of this era, and while we're there, I know he doesn't like to talk about past fighters, but because of his size alone, there isn't a heavyweight that can beat him, and there never has been a heavyweight that can beat him.
Yeah, not a man born of his mother.
But I don't even want to go into that press conference. He used some filthy language. I thought he'd lost his mind. But it's interesting Joe should say that, because what's his name? One of the commentators, let's say, was talking about that after the AJ Usyk, they demonstrated this idea that fighters from the past couldn't compete because of their size was bogus. Teddy Atlas was one of the commentators that said that was an example of how that debate is flawed. Well, I think when you're talking about someone who's 6'9" who can move like Fury.
But you can't use the Usyk AJ example when AJ didn't use his size the way that Fury would. I'm not saying all fighters are so much bigger this era that they'd beat all the other ones. I'm talking about Tyson Fury alone, with his boxing ability and size and the way he utilizes it. That's different.
The most interesting kind of argument with the past in terms of the latest Fury Wilder fight for me was the gritty side of it, the knockdown and get back up, and that thing that makes all of the classic fights, and which you didn't see in the Usyk AJ fight, which won't be a remembered fight because it doesn't have that drama. It was great to watch. We all loved it, but it isn't going to be on the top 10 of fights that people feel passionately about because it didn't have that blood and guts.
You just don't ever get two heavyweights fighting for a world title where both are getting knocked down. You just rarely ever see it.
Yeah, it's rare. Yeah,
and we're fortunate to have had that, in spades with the Wilder Fury fight. But we won't see a fight like that for a very long time. I think the Usyk Fury fight will be more of a chess match than a slugfest that we've seen.
Yeah, I've heard people say that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it'll be a bit more similar to maybe the Klitschko fight. I think Fury will probably resort back to his boxing. I think he will have to impose his size to a point, but Usyk just won't. I think Usyk just won't let him. I think his movement is too good. He's too quick. Like
the openings won't be there as easy as they were for Wilder fight.
Sorry, say again, John. I didn't hear that.
The openings that Wilder presents Fury with his lack of movement will not be there with Usyk. Usyk won't give him that.
The final thing I want to end on maybe a little bit is just, Jörn, I pose this to you. How much do you think kind of stamina played a role in this game? I think we touched on it a little bit earlier, but it seemed to me that Deontay Wilder was done by the third round, really, in terms of fatigue, and never really recovered. I know the knockdown played a role, but physically he just looked shattered.
You won't get
Jörn, we've come to you first because we know you deal with fatigue issues and you don't last particularly long. So we felt that you would be the best place to answer this one.
You won't get nowhere without big lungs, will you? Do you know what I mean? And you can't. I mean, they're all saying that Wilder came in too big, didn't he? He looked terrifying. If you landed from another planet, you would have put money on him to win, wouldn't you? I mean, I was scared. I even prayed a little bit that Fury wouldn't get too badly hurt.
Although, did you see Tyson Fury's eyes at the start of the fight? He looked like a man possessed. That scared me.
I think what
that's what my prayers did. That's what my prayers did.
I think what is so impressive about Fury, you look at the accomplishments of Joshua, winning world titles. He did these all in the UK. Fury been to Germany, beat Klitschko in his backyard, been to the US, Vegas, beat Wilder in his backyard. This guy is a proper fighter. He is the fighter of the generation because it doesn't matter where he's doing it.
But there's a lot and there's a lot to envy about that or admire. And Usyk's the same, where you get this sense of, I struggle to go on holiday abroad, let alone go on holiday and be watched by 80,000 people getting the shit beaten out of me. So it's like, it takes big balls, man. It takes big balls. It's it's impressive stuff.
Yeah, no, it was. I don't really know. I think we answered it somehow, but no, I think a lot of praise to Fury. Brilliant performance. Clearly, especially in the last two fights, he had a very clear game plan from the start, and he was able to execute them, knocking Wilder out, bringing some entertainment to the sport, reigniting the heavyweight division, really. And hopefully we just keep these fights coming because no one cares about the losses. We're just enjoying these serious fights.
But also, like, Wilder's performance has kept him in the game as well, right?
Yeah, 100%.
I think if it had been like the second fight, no one would be interested in another Wilder fight. But now,
but if you look at Wilder
he's a true warrior.
He's got more than one thing in his arsenal now. He's got a chin and he's got heart. He's got chin and heart and serious punching power. Now, those two things together, a chin and punching power, makes a very lethal heavyweight. Look at the George Foreman's fighters such as that. I'd back Wilder against a lot of opponents now in the heavyweight division because if he's in the fight, he'll knock you out. And he's a bit like Fury. You've got to knock him spark out. To beat him, he's got to be out, or on points, obviously. But anyway, I think we'll wrap it up there. We've covered quite a few things. We all really loved the fight. Props to Wilder, props to Fury. Brilliant fight. Thanks everyone for listening. Do you guys want to give a little wave goodbye? Right, we'll tune in next week. I think it's going to be, we're going to maybe have a look at that Newcastle show, which has got Hughie Fury, Chris Eubank, big fighters, big names. Eubank. The tops will be staying on for the next podcast. But okay, thank you everyone for listening, and goodbye.